The whispering shadows of Alabama's most haunted cemetery. Nestled deep within the rolling hills of Alabama lies a place where time seems to stand still, yet whispers from another realm echo through the air. This is no ordinary cemetery. It's a site steeped in chilling tales, spectral encounters, and an eerie allure that draws both the curious and the brave. Known as one of the most haunted locations in the United States, this cemetery has become a magnet for ghost hunters, paranormal enthusiasts, and storytellers alike. Join me on a journey into the heart of darkness, where history mingles with horror, and the living dare to tread among the restless dead. This article delves deep into the shadowy corners of Alabama's most haunted cemetery, exploring its storied past, spine-tingling legends, and the unshakable sense of dread it instills in those who visit. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, prepare to uncover the secrets buried beneath the moss-covered tombstones and unravel the mysteries that have kept locals whispering in fear for generations. But before we step into the twilight world of this haunted sanctuary, let me set the stage. Imagine standing under a canopy of ancient oaks, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the faint sound of rustling wind carries voices too faint to decipher but too persistent to ignore. Somewhere in the distance, a crow lets out a mournful cry, breaking the oppressive silence. It's here, in this liminal space between life and death, that our story begins, a tale of tragedy, loss, and the unrelenting grip of the supernatural. So grab your lantern, steel your nerves, and let us venture together into the shadows of Alabama's most haunted cemetery. The history of Alabama's most haunted cemetery. To truly understand the haunting energy that permeates this desolate graveyard, we must first peel back the layers of its storied past. Established in the early 19th century, the cemetery was originally part of a sprawling plantation owned by the affluent Montgomery family, one of the wealthiest and most influential families in antebellum Alabama. At first glance, it seemed like just another resting place for the departed, rows of weathered headstones marking the finality of lives lived. But beneath its serene surface lay a history marred by tragedy, injustice, and secrets too dark to be laid to rest. The cemetery's origins trace back to the early when the Montgomerys, seeking a private burial ground for their family, consecrated the land. However, what began as a sacred space for loved ones soon became entangled in the horrors of the era. As the plantation flourished, so did its dependence on enslaved labor. Historical records reveal that the land adjacent to the cemetery served as a burial ground for enslaved individuals who perished under brutal conditions. These graves, unmarked and forgotten, lie scattered among the roots of towering oaks, their stories buried alongside the bodies they contain. One particularly harrowing account tells of a young enslaved woman named Lila, whose tragic fate would later become intertwined with the cemetery's haunting reputation. According to oral histories passed down through generations, Lila was accused of stealing food to feed her starving child. In retaliation, she was subjected to a public whipping and left to die at the edge of the plantation grounds. Her body was hastily interred in an unmarked grave within the cemetery, far from the ornate monuments reserved for the plantation owners. Locals claim that Lila's spirit lingers there still, her anguished cries echoing on moonless nights as she searches for her lost child. The Civil War only deepened the cemetery's somber legacy. As battles raged across the South, the once prosperous plantation fell into disrepair, and the cemetery became a makeshift burial site for soldiers from both sides of the conflict. Many were hastily buried without proper rites, their identities erased by time and neglect. Some say the restless souls of these fallen warriors still roam the grounds, their spectral forms appearing as shadowy figures marching silently between the tombstones. Adding to the cemetery's grim history is the legend of the Wailing Widow, a figure shrouded in mystery and sorrow. In the late 1800s, a wealthy widow named Eleanor Hargrove was laid to rest in the cemetery after taking her own life following the untimely deaths of her husband and children. Witnesses claim to have seen her ghostly apparition wandering the grounds, her face obscured by a black veil, her sobs cutting through the night like a knife. To this day, visitors report hearing disembodied wails emanating from the area surrounding her elaborate mausoleum. Over the decades, the cemetery has also been linked to strange disappearances and inexplicable phenomena. One of the most infamous incidents occurred when a group of teenagers dared to spend the night within its gates. Only 2 returned, their faces pale with terror, unable to explain what had happened to their friends. Search parties scoured the area but found no trace of the missing youths, leaving behind only unanswered questions and mounting fear. As the years passed, the cemetery fell into disrepair, its once pristine pathways overtaken by weeds and its headstones cracked and crumbling. Yet its reputation as a hotspot for paranormal activity grew stronger with each passing generation. Local historians and paranormal investigators have documented countless accounts of strange occurrences, flickering lights, cold spots, and even full-bodied apparitions witnessed by unsuspecting visitors. It is this dark tapestry of history, woven with threads of suffering, loss, and unresolved grief, that gives the cemetery its reputation as one of the most haunted places in Alabama. Each stone, each shadow, and each whispered name carries with it the weight of centuries-old pain. And as we delve deeper into the legends and lore surrounding this foreboding site, one thing becomes clear: the spirits of the past refuse to remain silent. They linger, trapped between worlds, their voices rising from the depths of the earth to tell their stories, and perhaps seek justice for the wrongs done to them, haunting legends of the cemetery within the hallowed, or perhaps unhallowed, grounds of Alabama's most haunted cemetery. The air is heavy not only with the scent of damp soil but also with the weight of countless chilling legends. These tales, passed down through generations, paint a vivid picture of a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is perilously thin. From ghostly apparitions to eerie auditory phenomena, the cemetery serves as a backdrop for some of the most terrifying encounters ever recorded in Southern folklore. One of the most frequently recounted legends involves the spectral figure known as the Lady in White. Described as a translucent woman dressed in flowing white garments, she is said to appear near the oldest section of the cemetery, where many of the unmarked graves of enslaved individuals are believed to lie. Witnesses describe her as floating silently among the tombstones, her face obscured by a veil of mist. Some claim that she approaches visitors, her hollow eyes locking onto theirs before vanishing into thin air. Others say she can be heard softly humming a mournful tune, a melody that grows louder and more desperate the longer one lingers nearby. Locals believe she is the spirit of Lila, the enslaved woman whose tragic death marked the beginning of the cemetery's dark legacy. Her presence is often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of sadness, as though her soul remains tethered to the earth by grief and longing. Equally unsettling is the phenomenon known as the whispering walls. Visitors have reported hearing faint murmurs emanating from the cemetery's perimeter walls, which date back to the mid-19th century. These whispers, described as indistinct yet insistent, seem to come from all directions at once, creating an unnerving sensation of being surrounded by unseen entities. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site theorize that the walls act as a conduit for residual energy, trapping the voices of those who once walked the grounds. Some claim the whispers grow louder during storms, as if the turbulent weather amplifies the restless spirit's attempts to communicate. Others interpret the sounds as warnings, urging intruders to leave before encountering something far more sinister. Another spine-chilling tale centers around the Black Dog of the Crossroads, a spectral hound said to patrol the cemetery's outer edges. Witnesses describe the creature as larger than any earthly dog, its fur as black as midnight, and its eyes glowing with an unnatural red light. According to legend, the dog appears only to those who have trespassed on sacred ground or disturbed the graves of the deceased. Those who encounter it are said to feel an immediate sense of dread, as though the very air around them has turned icy. Local superstition holds that seeing the black dog is a harbinger of impending doom. Several accounts describe individuals who claim to have crossed paths with the beast, only to meet tragic fates shortly thereafter. The legends surrounding Alabama's most haunted cemetery are not confined to folklore alone. They are brought to life by the first-hand accounts of those who have ventured into its shadowy embrace and emerged forever changed. These testimonies, collected from locals, paranormal investigators, and unsuspecting visitors, offer a glimpse into the raw, visceral terror experienced by those who have encountered the cemetery's otherworldly inhabitants. Take, for instance, the chilling recollection of Sarah Mitchell, a lifelong resident of the nearby town. On a crisp autumn evening, Sarah decided to visit the cemetery after hearing about its reputation from friends. Armed with little more than a flashlight and her phone, she entered the grounds just as dusk began to settle. "I wasn't scared at first," she recalls. "I thought it would be peaceful, maybe even beautiful." But as she wandered deeper into the rows of weathered headstones, she began to feel an inexplicable heaviness in the air. "It was like I was walking through water," she says. "Every step felt heavier than the last." Then came the whispers, soft, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to emanate from the trees themselves. Though she couldn't make out the words, Sarah describes the sound as urgent, like someone was trying to tell me something important. She turned to leave, only to freeze in terror as a figure materialized before her. It looked like a man, but he was wrong. His face kept shifting, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to look like. I dropped my flashlight and ran. I didn't stop until I got home. For paranormal investigator James Carter, the cemetery proved to be both a professional challenge and a deeply personal reckoning. Leading a team of researchers equipped with EVP recorders, thermal cameras, and EMF detectors, James spent an entire night documenting activity within the graveyard. What started as routine investigation quickly spiraled into chaos. Around midnight, the team captured an audio clip that sent chills down their spines, a child's voice, barely audible, pleading, "Help me find my mama." Moments later, the temperature plummeted, and their equipment began malfunctioning simultaneously. Our cameras cut out, the EMF meters spiked off the charts, and then we heard footsteps, loud, deliberate footsteps, coming toward us. James recounts. "We packed up and got out of there as fast as we could. Whatever was there didn't want us sticking around." Even seasoned skeptics have found themselves shaken by their experiences at the cemetery. Mark Reynolds, a self-professed non-believer in the paranormal, visited the site on a dare from his friends. "I thought it was going to be boring," he admits. "Just another old graveyard with some creepy vibes." But as he stood near the mausoleum of Eleanor Hargrove, Mark claims to have felt a sudden, suffocating pressure wrap around him. "It felt like hands grabbing me, pulling me down," he says. "I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. And then I heard this scream, not human, not animal, just pure agony. I bolted out of there and haven't been back since." Local historian Emily Dawson offers a different perspective, one rooted in decades of research and interviews with residents. "People don't realize how much pain is buried here," she explains. "This isn't just a cemetery, it's a scar on the land. The enslaved people, the soldiers, the widows, all of them left pieces of themselves behind. Their stories are still alive in this place, whether we want to acknowledge them or not." Emily herself has never had a direct encounter, but she recounts speaking with numerous individuals who have. One particularly harrowing story involves a couple who visited the cemetery on their wedding anniversary. While laying flowers at a relative's grave, they claimed to have seen a procession of shadowy figures moving silently between the tombstones. "They weren't solid, but they weren't transparent either," the wife reportedly said. "It was like watching ghosts practice a funeral march." These accounts, diverse in their details yet united in their intensity, underscore the undeniable power of the cemetery's haunted aura. For those who dare to enter, the experience is rarely, if ever, forgotten. The voices of the past, whether whispered, screamed, or simply implied, continue to resonate, refusing to be silenced. Paranormal investigations at the cemetery in recent years. The cemetery's reputation as a paranormal hotspot has drawn the attention of some of the most respected names in the field of ghost hunting and paranormal research. Teams equipped with state-of-the-art technology have descended upon the site, determined to capture definitive evidence of the supernatural activity that has long been whispered about. Their findings, bolstered by scientific methodology and meticulous documentation, have added a layer of credibility to the centuries-old legends, transforming hearsay into hard data. One of the most notable investigations was conducted by the renowned paranormal research group Spectral Seekers International. Over the course of 3 consecutive nights in October, deployed an arsenal of tools designed to detect anomalies that might elude the naked eye. Thermal imaging cameras revealed inexplicable cold spots hovering above certain graves, particularly those associated with the unmarked burial sites of enslaved individuals. These cold spots, which fluctuated erratically despite stable atmospheric conditions, were accompanied by dramatic spikes in electromagnetic field. Investigators noted that the fluctuations often coincided with reports of disembodied whispers and shadowy movements captured on infrared footage. Among the most compelling pieces of evidence gathered, using specialized audio equipment, the team captured a series of faint but distinct responses to their questions. When asked, "Who is here with us?" the recording picked up a chilling reply. "Lila." The voice, though distorted, bore an unmistakable tone of sorrow, aligning perfectly with the legend of the enslaved woman whose tragic fate haunts the cemetery. Further analysis revealed additional layers of sound, including what appeared to be overlapping voices engaged in a fragmented conversation. Linguistic experts consulted by the team suggested that some of the phrases matched regional dialects spoken during the antebellum period, lending further credence to the idea that residual energy from the past continues to manifest in the present. Another groundbreaking investigation was led by Dr. Evelyn Carter, a physicist turned paranormal researcher known for her rigorous approach to studying the unexplained. Utilizing a technique called Geiger-Müller radiation mapping, Dr. Carter sought to measure ionizing radiation levels across the cemetery grounds. Her findings were startling. Certain areas, particularly near the perimeter walls and the overgrown plot associated with the crying child legend, exhibited elevated radiation levels inconsistent with natural environmental factors. While low-level radiation can sometimes occur due to geological formations, the localized spikes observed by Dr. Carter defied conventional explanation. She hypothesized that these anomalies could be indicative of psychokinetic energy, a theoretical phenomenon in which intense emotional trauma imprints itself on the environment, creating lingering disturbances. Perhaps the most visually striking evidence came from a drone-mounted thermal camera operated by a team from Night Watch Paranormal. Flying over the cemetery at dawn, the drone captured footage of what appeared to be human-like figures moving between the tombstones. These figures, invisible to the naked eye, registered as heat signatures distinctly different from those of living beings. Strangely, the figures moved in synchronized patterns, almost as though performing a ritualistic dance. Upon closer examination, researchers identified subtle anomalies in the footage, such as brief moments where the figures' forms blurred and shifted, suggesting they were not entirely corporeal. While skeptics have questioned the validity of these findings, pointing to potential equipment malfunctions or misinterpretations of data, the consistency of the results across multiple independent investigations lends weight to the claims. Moreover, the convergence of anecdotal accounts with empirical evidence creates a compelling narrative that challenges even the most hardened doubters. For instance, the recurring theme of cold spots and EMF spikes aligns closely with witness reports of encountering spectral figures or hearing disembodied voices. Similarly, the thermal camera footage corroborates descriptions of ghostly apparitions provided by visitors who otherwise had no prior knowledge of the technology used to capture them. The cumulative impact of these investigations cannot be overstated. By combining cutting-edge technology with traditional methods of inquiry, researchers have succeeded in bridging the gap between folklore and science. Their work not only validates the experiences of those who have encountered the supernatural within the cemetery's grounds, but also opens new avenues for understanding the mechanics of hauntings. Whether viewed through the lens of quantum physics or cultural anthropology, the evidence suggests that Alabama's most haunted cemetery is indeed a place where the boundaries between worlds blur, offering a rare glimpse into the mysteries of the afterlife. Shadows beneath your feet. Scientific explanations for the unexplainable. While the legends and paranormal investigations surrounding Alabama's most haunted cemetery paint a compelling picture of supernatural activity, skeptics argue that many of the phenomena reported can be attributed to psychological and environmental factors. Understanding these alternative explanations does not diminish the eerie atmosphere of the cemetery but rather provides a grounded perspective on why visitors might perceive the site as haunted. One widely accepted theory involves infrasound, a low-frequency sound wave below the threshold of human hearing. Studies have shown that exposure to infrasound, often generated by natural sources like wind passing through dense foliage or underground water currents, can induce feelings of unease, anxiety, and even hallucinations. In the case of the cemetery, the combination of tall, ancient trees and uneven terrain could create pockets of infrasound that affect visitors subconsciously. The sensation of being watched or the perception of movement out of the corner of one's eye might stem not from spectral entities but from the brain's response to these imperceptible vibrations. Another contributing factor could be the psychological phenomenon known as pareidolia, the tendency of the human mind to perceive meaningful patterns in random stimuli. The dim lighting, weathered tombstones, and overgrown vegetation characteristic of the cemetery provide ample opportunity for pareidolia to take hold. Shadows cast by moonlight filtering through gnarled branches can easily be mistaken for ghostly figures, while the play of light and shadow on cracked headstones might resemble faces or forms. This cognitive bias is amplified in high-stress environments, such as a graveyard at night, where the imagination is primed to conjure threats. Environmental conditions also play a significant role in shaping the cemetery's haunting reputation. Cold spots, often cited as evidence of paranormal activity, can be explained by simple thermodynamics. Variations in soil composition, moisture levels, and airflow can create localized temperature differences within the cemetery. For example, areas shaded by dense tree cover may retain cooler air, while open spaces exposed to sunlight during the day radiate warmth at night. These microclimates can produce sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature that feel unnatural to those unprepared for them. Similarly, the mysterious whispers and murmurs reported by visitors may have mundane origins. When passing through narrow gaps in the cemetery's stone walls or rustling leaves can generate sounds resembling faint voices. Known as the wind effect. This phenomenon is particularly potent in older structures where erosion has created irregular surfaces capable of distorting sound waves. Combined with the heightened sensory awareness typical of nighttime exploration, these auditory illusions can be mistaken for ghostly communication. Even the emotional weight of the cemetery's history can influence perceptions. Research in environmental psychology suggests that humans are highly attuned to the emotional residue of a place, especially one associated with tragedy or loss. Walking among the graves of enslaved individuals, fallen soldiers, and grieving widows evokes a profound sense of melancholy that can blur the line between memory and imagination. This emotional resonance, coupled with the isolation and silence of the cemetery, creates an ideal setting for suggestibility to flourish. Visitors primed by local legends or personal beliefs about hauntings are more likely to interpret ambiguous stimuli as evidence of the supernatural. While these explanations offer rational insights into the cemetery's eerie ambience, they do not negate the power of the experiences themselves. Whether rooted in psychology, physics, or folklore, the haunting allure of Alabama's most haunted cemetery endures, a testament to the intricate interplay between human perception and the mysteries of the unknown. The haunting legends of Alabama's most haunted cemetery extend far beyond mere ghost stories. They serve as a mirror reflecting the collective psyche of the community that has grown up in its shadow. For generations, the cemetery has acted as both a physical and symbolic repository of the region's deepest fears, unresolved traumas, and societal tensions. Its spectral narratives are not isolated incidents but rather extensions of the broader cultural fabric, weaving together themes of loss, injustice, and the enduring human need to confront mortality. At its core, the cemetery embodies the unresolved scars of Alabama's tumultuous history. The unmarked graves of enslaved individuals, the hurried burials of Civil War soldiers, and the ornate tombs of wealthy plantation owners collectively narrate a story of inequality and suffering that continues to reverberate through modern society. These disparities are not confined to the past. They manifest in contemporary attitudes toward race, class, and privilege, making the cemetery a poignant reminder of systemic injustices that persist to this day. Local historians note that many residents view the cemetery as a sacred space where the voices of the marginalized finally find expression, even if only through whispered legends. This duality, of reverence and fear, highlights the complex relationship communities have with their histories, torn between acknowledging painful truths and burying them beneath layers of denial. Psychologically, the cemetery functions as a liminal zone where the boundaries between life and death blur, forcing visitors to grapple with existential questions. The pervasive sense of unease reported by those who walk its grounds is not merely a product of external stimuli but also an internal response to confronting mortality. Psychologists suggest that haunted spaces like this cemetery tap into primal fears about the afterlife and the unknown, triggering a heightened state of awareness that amplifies sensory experiences. The cold spots, whispers, and shadowy figures become less about actual paranormal activity and more about how individuals process their own anxieties about death and legacy. Moreover, the cemetery's legends serve as cautionary tales, reinforcing social norms and behaviors. Stories of the Black Dog of the Crossroads or the Wailing Widow act as moral compasses, warning against trespassing, greed, or hubris. These narratives function as a form of communal storytelling, uniting people through shared fears while simultaneously reinforcing values such as respect for the dead and adherence to tradition. Even skeptics who dismiss the supernatural elements often concede that the cemetery holds a unique power to inspire introspection and foster connections among those who engage with its lore. On a broader scale, the cemetery's haunting reputation underscores humanity's enduring fascination with the supernatural. Across cultures and eras, ghost stories have served as vehicles for exploring universal themes: love, betrayal, redemption, and revenge. In Alabama, these tales take on a distinctly Southern Gothic flavor, blending elements of horror with the region's rich literary heritage. Writers and filmmakers frequently draw inspiration from sites like this cemetery, using them as settings for works that probe the darker aspects of the human condition. By doing so, they ensure that the cemetery's legacy transcends its physical confines, becoming part of a larger cultural dialogue about memory, identity, and the passage of time. Ultimately, the impact of Alabama's most haunted cemetery extends beyond its gates, shaping how individuals and communities understand themselves and their place in the world. It is a site where history, psychology, and myth converge, challenging visitors to confront uncomfortable truths while offering a space for reflection and catharsis. Whether viewed as a haunted landmark or a historical monument, its significance lies in its ability to provoke thought, spark conversation, and remind us that the past is never truly buried. It lingers, waiting to be unearthed. Why the cemetery continues to haunt you as we bring this chilling journey through Alabama's most haunted cemetery to a close, it becomes evident that its spectral allure is not confined to the legends or the cold, hard data of paranormal investigations. Instead, it resides in the delicate interplay between fact and fiction, memory and imagination. This cemetery is more than a collection of weathered stones and unmarked graves. It is a living, breathing entity that thrives on the emotions, fears, and curiosities of those who dare to visit. The question remains, why does this place continue to haunt us so profoundly? The answer lies in its ability to transcend time and space, acting as a bridge between the tangible and the intangible. For every visitor who steps onto its grounds, the cemetery becomes a canvas upon which personal fears, societal anxieties, and historical wounds are projected. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, not just about the past but about ourselves. The spectral figures, the disembodied whispers, and the inexplicable cold spots are not merely remnants of another realm. They are reflections of our own subconscious. They remind us of the fragility of life, the inevitability of death, and the unresolved stories that linger in the spaces between. Yet, the cemetery's haunting power also stems from its universality. While its legends are deeply rooted in the history of Alabama, they resonate with anyone who has ever grappled with loss, injustice, or the unknown. Its stories are not unique to one culture or era, they are archetypal, tapping into primal fears that transcend geography and time. Whether it's the tragic tale of Lila, the mournful cries of the Wailing Widow, or the ominous presence of the Black Dog, these narratives speak to something inherently human, the desire to make sense of the incomprehensible. In a world increasingly dominated by technology and rationality, places like this cemetery offer a rare opportunity to embrace the mysteries that defy explanation. They remind us that not everything can, or should, be quantified, categorized, or dismissed. There is beauty in the unknown, a kind of poetry in the shadows that dance between the tombstones. It is this ambiguity, this refusal to yield to logic, that keeps the cemetery alive in our collective consciousness. So, as you leave this article behind and return to the safety of your everyday life, take a moment to reflect on the stories we've uncovered. Consider the weight of the past, the resilience of the human spirit, and the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. Perhaps the next time you find yourself near an old cemetery, you'll pause and listen, not just with your ears but with your heart. Because somewhere, beneath the rustling leaves and creaking branches, the whispers of the past are waiting to be heard. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the shadows. Until next time, stay curious, and keep your lantern lit.